All right, hello everyone. Today we have a really short video to I guess, complement the end of part A for lesson 2. And again, we're going to work with our cup. So let's go ahead and open up Animate. Let's get this started. So go ahead and click Animate, and we're going to go ahead and open your O2 working copy. Okay. And I'm going to crank mine up to about 400%. Up here, just so I can see what we're working with. And that's over here on this side. I'm going to click 1, 2, 3, just to get your attention. All right, but I'm also going to open the, actually I'm going to open another file, which is the kind of like what we're looking for. Right, so we kind of want to see where we're going. I'll go ahead and crank this up to 300. Just to zoom, just so we can see where we're going. And again, we're still working with our mug, right? We're still working with our mug. So let's continue this. We got a couple ways to go, but today we're absolutely going to work with our gradients, right? And the gradients are basically going to be the colors that go from one side to the next, right? So basically here on the end result, you can see how it turns from one color and it actually just gradually goes to the next color. That's a gradient, right? And so again, right now we're going to be dealing with this fill. Again, the fill is the interior part of the drawn object, all right? And so we currently have this part right here selected. So if you hit your selection tool or V and you select it, right? And of course, it gives you the little polka dots. Now, what we're going to use is what's called a gradient fill, right? Because that's a solid fill. We're going to use a gradient fill. And a gradient fill, again, one color from one side gradually change the others. Now, there's a lot of ways we can do gradient fills. And one of them is linear, from one line to the next, right? And the other one is radial, where it starts in the middle and it kind of goes out in a circular motion. Those are the two main ones, right? But there's also a diagonally and these other ones. But for today, we're just going to focus on two. The linear one from left to right or right to left, and the radial one that goes in a circle. All right, so you have this selected, right? Then what we're going to do here is we're going to hit the selection tool. Now we're going to open the color panel, and we're going to go up to window, and then we're going to go to color, and it'll open up the color panel. Now you can also go up here where it has a little palette, you know, like the artists have their little palette boards. That's what that little symbol is up here on this corner right here. And you should be magnified there. So I'm going to click that, and that's your color panel. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and from the color panel right here where it says solid color, that's what we're working right now. We're actually going to go to click that sub menu, right? And I'll go ahead and click it again. Click this sub menu right here, and it gives you some options. It gives you some options, and the option we're gonna pick is the second one, linear gradient. And now, as soon as you click it, the selection is now changing. Now you can see kind of the way it gradually turns to the next color, right? But we want to specify these colors. Now down here is the gradient, I guess the gradient panel, right? And so basically, again, if you lose it, because I just changed screens for a second, but if you lose it, just click right here. So this down here is your gradient panel, and you see where it's kind of dark, probably black, then it goes to white. Right underneath this panel here, there are these two boxes, right? Those are the color boxes. Now they have these little triangles on top, and basically what they're saying is, I am the color on this side. For example, white is saying I'm the color on the right side, and it's hard to see because I'm in dark mode. There's another box here, and it's black box, and it says I'm the color on the left hand side. So that's what these two are, and this little bar represents everything that's out here. So if you can see where it correlates, this gradient bar matches the gradient fill that we have on the cup, on the surface of our cup. So what we want to do is we want to go to a brown type of color. So we're going to click the black box, the one on the left, right? All right, and we're going to type in the hex code right here, because we've done this many times before, right? Hopefully you guys are getting used to this. FF, 2 Fs, and then 4 Cs. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So FF, C, 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 C. And then you hit enter. Right? So now that side is white. Okay, so we turn the black to white. Now you can actually see that box. Now, I will tell you this. That little triangle, when you select it, when you're messing with it, it turns black. But watch what happens when I click off it. See how it turns white? But I actually added one by accident. What? So now there's another kind of fine-tune, but I'm not going to mess with that right now. We'll do it in a second. So I'm going to click it. If you add an extra one, just click it and drag it off screen and it's fine. It's gone. Just like swipe it away. We're actually going to go to the right side where the white one's at. We're going to click that. We're going to double click that and we're going to enter a different number. Let me get to that real quick. All right. And that's going to be, let me go ahead and back to my color panel. And this little guy right here on the right hand side, double click that. And that's going to be, I'm going to enter the color B86 241. All right, and hit enter. Now it has a cool gradient, right? Now it has like a brown gradient. You can see here it's how it's working. But we actually want to do another one. I just kind of previewed it by accident, right? And that's, we're going to add another gradient. We're going to add another point of change. And that's what these little boxes are. They're actually points of reference. So every time you hit that box, you can add a new color. So I'm going to add one in the center, right? I'm just going to click on it right there. Boom. And now that part, the little triangle on top of that box is black. And for this one, I'm going to double click this and I'm going to just basically do 6 Fs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that 6 Fs is the recipe for all white, if you want to know. And I'll hit return. And now it kind of has this kind of shiny effect, right? We've made this, like it's almost like a glare where it's dark. I guess it's this dark brown on the right. And then it kind of glares out to a white. And then it kind of subtly goes into like a lighter color, right? A lighter brown. All right. So that's kind of like a cool effect that you can make with the gradients. You can give it a 3D style, so to speak. All right. And then we went ahead, we've finished applying that, right? So that's pretty cool. So what we want to do now is we also want to kind of continue this gradient, right? We want to continue it to this back area. All right. Not the lip, not the edge of the cup, but just the very back of that cup. So what you're going to do here is we're going to select this orange part right here, right? Whoa. But now look what happened. It selected everything. So if I click and drag it, all of that is selected. Control Z, right? Something's up, something's wrong, right? Because I just want this. I'm going to click off here and deselect it. I'll click anywhere on the white, it'll deselect it. And I just want this back part, but it looks like it's connected to everything. Well, somewhere along the lines, if this happens to you, that means that somewhere there is a broken gap in the line and it's the selection is spilling out everywhere. So what I'm going to do here is the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to and just make sure that the lock button down here is not selected, and it's not selected here on mine, so it shouldn't be on yours, right? And what we're going to end up doing here is we're going to go ahead and get this paint bucket tool right here, right? Where is it at? Here, this one. I'm going to click close to it. We're going to click the paint bucket tool, right? And if I click the paint bucket tool and I click in here, see what it does? It does the gradient to everything, and I don't want that. So I'm going to Command Z or Control Z at home. So there's a little trick right down here. I'm going to click over here. I can't click. I'm going to click my selection tool. Oh, I can't. My paint bucket tool. So you just got to see it because I can't click or else it's going to actually fill the backspace. But here, this little square looks like a little square with no fill. If you hold that little square down, it says don't close gaps, close small gaps, close medium gaps, close large gaps. And I'm going to just select close small gaps right there. So basically, if I fill something in and it detects a small gap, it's going to close it up automatically for me so it doesn't spill everywhere. So now I'm just going to click on the little background here, and you see it just isolates that one little area. It's not magic. It's a cool feature. Trust me, that caused a lot of headaches way before they put in this close gap feature down here, right? This close gap feature is pretty awesome. You know, I love it. So hit V again, just so you can get out of that tool. And again, that's something that we're going to be working with, because now we have the gradient in the back that matches the gradient in the front, right? So right now we're going to actually do something a little different, and we're going to actually continue working with the gradients, right? But we're going to use the gradient transform tool. So what this does is that maybe you put the gradient there, but you want to have a little different effect, right? You want to churn the gradient a little bit. You don't want it to be shining straight, directly at you. You kind of want it off axis. You want to be more artistic with it. Well, if you come over here by our selection tool and you hold it down, we have what's called the gradient transform tool. I'm going to step off just a second so you can actually see hopefully see the magnified gradient transform tool. Now this gradient transform tool, if you mistake it for the free transform tool, you're going to run into a lot of these little weird problems. So make sure that you understand that you are using the gradient transform tool. Because once you're there and you click and you basically select, the gradient that you're in, it gives you this little two parallel lines with a circle in the middle, right? Those two parallel lines are basically telling you the edge of the gradient. Where those two boxes that we were working with in the color bar a moment ago, that's where they live on each of those sides. And that white circle is the center point between those two lines. So if you grab that center point, which you should do right now, and you move it over, you can start seeing where the center white part is moving left and right, right? You can see it. You can play around with it. You can move it. I'm going to move mine towards the left. And again, this is your personal choice. Just put it somewhere around this area and wherever you feel best that it actually looks kind of cool. Now, I brought in more of the dark side because if you notice, to the right of this line, it just continues one solid color. So up to this line, it's been in transition until it gets to the point of the line. After that, it's all going to be that solid color that we chose in that box, right? So we're going to click anywhere on the white space and it's going to deselect that. So that looks pretty cool, right? And what we're going to do now is we're going to mess with the back gradient too. So we'll click that. And what we're going to do here is we're actually going to flip this all the way around. Instead of going back and choosing colors and everything, we can do lots of things. If we grab this circle here and it has this little circle with an arrow on it, okay, or an arrowhead on it. And what this allows you to do is allows you to change the gradient all the way around, okay. And what I wanted to do, I kind of wanted the opposite effect. Because if I want the sunlight coming from the left, I want it to hit and give it a little shadow on the inside. So now it looks like if there's an open window behind my, or behind your left-hand shoulder and the light is shining through. And then there's these shadows. So now we're playing with shadows. So gradients are really great for adding shadows to your art. Okay. And those of you who are in art, you understand the value, the absolute must-have tool in your arsenal is shadows, right? It gives you all that life-like detail, or it transforms things into life. So the gradient tool, you've worked with it, okay? And we're gonna work with one more, the radial gradient, right? So that's one thing that we want to do right now. And so again, this is all we're gonna do. We're gonna hit the gradient tool. And we're gonna finalize that, and then we're gonna go ahead and save this layer, and we're gonna finish this mini tutorial, right? And then so stay with me; it's not gonna be too long. So right now we're going to go ahead and we're going to let me see where we're at. Oh, I skipped ahead on the tutorial. So we're gonna go ahead and we're going to select the gradient transform tool. We got that, okay. And we're basically going to go to the select tool or V, and we're going to click the coffee because we're going to make the coffee some delicious gradients as well, right? So we're going to give it some shine. So again, the linear one goes from one side to the next, but the radial starts from the center and goes out, right? So what we're going to do here, and they don't give us actual numbers, is we're actually going to go back to our little color panel. So let's do it this way again. Window and then color. Again, if you want to use the little shortcut over here on the right-hand side, you can. Again, I just want to show you multiple ways. So basically, here is the color, all right? And if we go down here, there is no gradient. So we're actually going to go to this little color type box, and it's a drop-down menu. Click that, and we're going to go to Radial Gradient. And there's a Radial Gradient right there. Boom. So now you kind of see it's somewhat working, and we still have 3 different little boxes. I'm going to grab the center one, and I'm going to grab it and I'm going to just drag it off. I don't want to have that. I don't want to mess with that right now. But what I do want is I want the left-hand box to be a light brown, but they don't tell us what a light brown is. If you double click here, oops, let me double click again. The swatch doesn't have a whole big selection of browns, and I don't like that. So what I ended up doing, I'm going to go ahead and just come back in here. What I did is I went ahead and let me go ahead back. I looked up a hex code for a light brown hex code. And so I'm going to grab this one, B5651D. And you can open up a window and get your own brown if you want. I'm not going to let you, you don't have to stick with mine. They're letting us kind of choose our own stuff now. So I'm going to go back to the color panel. It's up here, the shortcut. I don't have to go to the windows. Double click this on the left hand side, the little box. And then in the hex code, I'm going to go ahead and enter the little hex code that I got and hit return. There's my light brown. But now on the right hand side, what I'm going to want to do, and you already saw a little preview before, I'm going to forward in time, dark brown hex code, because I want a dark brown hex code. So I'm going to pick this one, 654-321. I'm going to copy that, right? Come back to my color. Again, this is a shortcut. Or we can go to window and you can color. I'm just showing you multiple ways of doing it. Okay. It's the same thing. They're not different. And I'm going to click the right hand side of this little gradient bar in the box. And I'm going to paste what I just got off the internet, right? A dark brown. I hit return. Boom. Okay. So we have a radial gradient. So you can see or kind of see that in the center, it's a little bit lighter than it is on the edges, right? You can see that. It's not super, because of the two browns that we're using, they're somewhat close together. That's one of the things that's hard to see, right? But hopefully you can see it. And if we want to, let me see if I go extra light brown. Oh, actually, pale brown. Let me see if we give me this one. No, that one's good enough. So, and hopefully we'll just stick with that one. So basically, that if you find a better one, you guys are artists and have a great, and you're not colorblind like me, so you probably can choose a better one. I'm having a hard time kind of picking it out. So anyway, let's go ahead and go to grab the gradient transform tool. You know it because you've already got it, right? So we're going to come back over here. We're going to select the gradient selection tool. If it's not already selected, you can hold that free transform tool. You can hold that and get the little sub menu, and you can pick that. So now you have this circle, and you have which basically represent your radial gradient, and of course the little dot represents the actual center point of the radius. So if you move it over, now you can start seeing the color really change, right? And what I'm gonna so now I'm gonna go ahead and grab that little dot and try to bring it not all the way to the right, but somewhat to the right, so you can actually, so it looks like the light is hitting a piece of that super rich coffee, and it hits the back of the wall. So it comes from the behind my shoulder on the left hand side, hits our cup, kind of lights up our coffee, and then toward the back of the coffee cup. And I want to kind of get it a little. I want to squish it a little bit, so you can squish it by grabbing this second little circle here. I'm going to click on that. Oh. You can get this little circle here, and you can make it big or small. And then you can kind of make it kind of wider, but I'm going to make it smaller. So I'm going to squish it, so it'll be more pronounced. I'm making that. And some of you are going to really kind of catch on to what I'm doing here. And you can also say, wouldn't a linear one work well? Yeah, it would probably, but this kind of gives you that feeling that it's the shadow is kind of enveloping. There's not a hard line, or there's not a hard transition that you can see coming across. It almost has pieces, a bit of pieces everywhere. So it's a little more natural looking. Then you're going to hit V right there. And so there is a radial gradient on the coffee, and then two linear gradients on the actual coffee cup. Okay. And you guys did a great job going through that. All right. So, again, let's go ahead and now let's make this into a single group, right? So what we're going to do right here is we're going to make all of this into a single group so that we don't have to mess with it, right? Because that way we can move it all in once, and so they're not in pieces. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the whole thing, or so click on the white part, and you can select the whole thing by clicking and dragging. So you selected everything. Now everything is selected. You're going to go up here, and you're going to go to modify, and you're going to hit that group. See down here? So again, I'm not going to click it. Modify, group. And what happens is now that if you select it, you're selecting the whole thing. It doesn't come apart. It's not in pieces anymore. We got to this part, so now it's really cool. Now we can really get into here and do our thing. But that's not to say that you can't select different things. If you really wanted to mess with something, you just double click it, right? Or you can shift click, what's one of those. See right there, you can deselect and select, right? So I can hold down shift and I can just select something and it'll select it. Okay, so then I'll have to group it all again if I don't want to mess with it. So select it all, modify, and then group. Once you hit the shift button and you start clicking around, it ungroups everything. All right, so again, that's pretty cool to have that all in one piece, so you don't have to mess with it at all. Okay. Okay, the last thing we need to do is come down to where it says layer 1, double click that, and we're going to call this layer coffee cup. And it says special characters are not permitted in the layer names. The name has been changed to conform with the requirement, and the requirement is an underscore. That's all it is. So it doesn't want any spaces, right? It wants it to be all like one solid word. So it'll put an underscore in there and you're done. Go ahead, hit file, save, and that's it for today. Hopefully you guys got to this point, and now you guys will have a great day. All right, it's Mr. Juarez until tomorrow, where we hit part C, and we'll do a couple other things and continue on our trek to the end result. You guys have a great day. Bye.